Hey guys, welcome back to the Grant Mitt Podcast, episode number 90. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about why the details matter. And this is what separates the 1% from the 99. As I was starting my career, getting into business, and more than anything, just getting into entrepreneurship, I started studying the best businesses and the best entrepreneurs. I also came from a sports background, so I got to see what was the difference between someone that went to play Division I football versus Division II and ultimately went to the NFL. And what I found from experience and through study and through closest friends that were really successful is that the details is what separates everybody. Where this gets confusing is at lower levels, you can afford to be sloppy. You can afford to not prepare the right way. You can get up there off a whim and do really good. And a lot of times, and I learned this about myself, is that your biggest weakness is actually your natural talent and natural God-given abilities. It's the things that you could just do off a whim without any preparation and do good. What happens is this: when you're good enough to be one of the best people just by living, that's nice. And that is an advantage for sure. And I'm not faulting you for it. But it also rewards bad behavior. Because as you move up and ascend to higher levels, what happens is everybody is like that, or they're better. They're smarter, they're more talented, they have more resources, they may be more connected than you. And so now your lack of preparation will get exposed because everyone is smart, everyone is talented, everyone knows the right people. The details is what separates the elite from the average. And I'm going to give you guys some examples on this, and I want you to really take a look at your life now and the success that you have and really ask yourself, am I really doing what is necessary? Am I truly doing what's enough to perform? Because it's almost never a lack of it's never a lack of resources, it's a lack of resourcefulness. We're not noticing the red cars that are all behind us. So it's all about assessing that. So when I first got to play junior college football, I played at Long Beach City College, and I redshirted my first year. And at the time, we had a stud returning starting quarterback, and he ended up going on to play at San Jose State. He was incredible. One of the most naturally talented, charismatic guys I'd ever been around. I mean, he was like, you know, the guy in the movies, you see that stud quarterback that's cool. This was this guy. He was incredible, and the best high school quarterbacks from his specific high school. And he actually came in that first year at LBCC, the year before I got there. They had him at third string, and within the second game, he was a starting quarterback, and they went on an incredible run, went into the playoffs, and he was, I think, All-American or All-State or something. I mean, just unbelievable. But it was interesting that when you met him, and when you were in the quarterback rooms and you were out and about, he was one of the boys. He was cool. He was always joking around. He was always messing with them. He had a good relationship with the coaches. They loved him, obviously, because he was, a star quarterback. But if I just viewed this, I almost like naively thought that he showed up to workouts. He did what he was supposed to do, but he kind of just showed up. And he was just like this. He was the man. And it was not something I spent a ton of time thinking about, but I just kind of assumed, that was it. He watched film when he was supposed to. He worked out when he was supposed to, and he was just a beast. And so I kind of did the same thing, and I was good. I could get away with this. And what I noticed as that level increased from high school to college is people started separating themselves because everyone was fast, everyone was strong, everyone had natural, football mindset where they understood things. And then I got really close with the offensive coordinator. And I found this out and I couldn't believe it. He goes, Grant, it looks like he's not trying and he's not doing this, but I kid you not, he texts me hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages a week, asking questions, watching film, will call me at 10 o'clock at night. It's like having a crazy ex-girlfriend coaching him, and I love it. And I was like, really? He goes, before every single game, he knows every coverage, every blitz, every guy, every tendency, the weak corners, the weak safeties. He knows information about, he knows things that you would never imagine. I was like, what? And I found this out, and all it did was expose me. It made me realize I thought I was preparing and I thought I was working hard, and I wasn't doing the slightest of anything. And as I got into entrepreneurship, I found the exact same thing. The people on my team and in my companies, as I was in a leadership and management role, I got to see it from that almost coaching perspective, where it was almost never talent why they were successful. I mean, I kid you not, guys, almost never. I mean, they had to be able to talk and be a natural, likable person mostly, but it was almost all preparation. And one of our best sales reps we ever had was a hockey player that had played hockey for 18 years and had never had a normal job besides being a professional hockey player. And he came in and kicked everyone's ass in sales. I mean, 40 other reps, and people quit, they get fired. So, over a span of a year and a half, whatever, probably close to year and a half, 2 years, I would say close to 80 different sales reps that had came through the company. No one, they beat him for a month. But if you span it out over quarters and years, he was not going to lose. So much so that we had to come up with different incentives and challenges and competitions because we knew he was going to automatically win. And so much so that he kind of stopped caring. He would win a Dubai trip and he's like, is there a way I could just convert that to cash? Because he'd won so many of them, he didn't have the time. He was just my kids, he just didn't even care because he was beating everybody so thoroughly. But each time we would say, hey, what's working for you? What's the secret? And all those guys that were lazy were trying to figure out, oh, he's doing this different. He's doing that different. He must be doing something secret. He must be getting better leads. He'd go, well, I call 200 to 400 people a day. And if I struggle, I just keep calling. And when they tell me no, I rebuttal with them until they basically hang up on me and I don't stop. Then I spend at least X hours per day reviewing all of my calls. I jump on 2 to 4 one-on-ones a week with whoever's doing good and closing deals. I have these people review. And he went through the list, and it was the most boring answer ever. He's like, I review my script every morning. I make sure that I'm doing this, and this. And everyone's like, that's underwhelming. It was kind of like a bloated to everyone that was asking the question because they thought there was this inside secret. And it was actually that they just weren't doing enough. He was out working and out preparing them. And when you go, and a great example of this is, I'm a big foodie, so I love restaurants. And so much so that I've always had a passion for hospitality, even though I'm not in the industry. I'm sure I'll be an investor in it. But when you look at the difference in restaurants or franchises and the restaurants that stay in business and are successful, it's always the details. There's this guy named Tillman Fertitta who's one of the best restaurateurs in the world. He has thousands of restaurants all across the world. He owns the Houston Rockets. He owns the nicest hotel in Houston, and met him a few times and met his kids. And there's people that tell him that he can walk into any one of his restaurants and he'll find the light bulb that's out. He'll find the one thing on the ground. Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, which I think to this moment still has the highest revenue of any company, potentially in the world, I know in America, would go in and get on the ground and look at different things. He'd go to different department stores and look around like a crazy person about how it's presented, where the aisles are, why the checkout is here, like a crazy person. And you would never expect these things, but the winners always pay attention to the details. And I was always such a big picture person. And I think this just went back to my natural tendencies of being an effective communicator, being able to win people over with my words. And that was a strength. But I underestimated the importance of systems and operations. And when I learned the power of that, it changed my entire life, my entire business, and anyone that worked around me. Because if you operate, guys, off of motivation, you're not going to get that far because you're just not going to always feel good. But if you have a system that you follow, or if you guys are entrepreneurs or business owners or managers, build systems that are proven, that produce an output. Meaning, You train your people. When a customer says this, you say this, and then you do this. And then if that happens, you do this, you do this, you do this. In business, we call them standard operating procedures, meaning that if you had an AI robot that was capable of human, they could look at these 10-step processes. And even if it's the first day, if they follow everything on that list, it will go through and the business will continue to run efficiently. Systems create scale. So what I started doing is time blocking. I do this, on Sunday, I prep my week and I know that a lot of things are going to change. And the night before that next day, I create a to-do list and I go through every little thing that I need to do for the next day. And I time block when I'm going to do it. A lot of times people get burnt out because they're so sporadic. They're so all over the place, but they don't think in terms of the details. There's an entrepreneur that I've been working with, and first 2 years into the business and is making more than anyone that's 23 years old. A lot of money. I'm not going to say how much, but really, really good. More than most people in America. And she's super overwhelmed. And she reminds me of the first year that I was in business. And it's because she's doing everything and she's great at it. And there's a couple others that are similar that I've worked with or I've been friends with that I just, gave advice to. And I was like, man, I went through the same things. So what we realized and what we broke down with her is I said, okay, walk me through what your week looks like. And I want you to name every single thing that you do that doesn't generate the business money, but you have to do to keep it running. And she said, okay, well, I have to do payroll for accounting. So we put on the Google sheet, payroll. And I said, how many hours is that a week? She said, like 2. I go, okay, cool. And then what's the next thing? She's like, scheduling. How many hours you spend a week on that? She's like 2. And then this, and it's like 1. So we go through the list and it equates to like 22 hours. And I said, okay, so just to be clear, these things that take about 22 hours a week, they don't make the business they don't make the business money, but if you stopped them, the business would stop. And she goes, yes. And I go, okay. Now, your goal is to grow the business and increase the revenue. Like, yep. And I'm like, are you great at this or this? And we're talking about, sales or this or that. And she so happened to say sales is what she's really good at, and business strategy and closing deals. And I said, okay, so do you think if that you had that extra 22 hours freed up and you could reallocate that towards something that was going to help your business run better, hire better people, create better strategies, and also spend more times with people that are actually going to grow your business, do you think that would grow it? Answer is obvious, yes. So all we did is we hired a virtual assistant. We made her create standard operating procedures for all of those things that she had to do. Those 22 hours, she created a standard operating procedure. Links detailed for every single one of those things. Hired the virtual assistant, and the virtual assistant did all those things within about 3 weeks. She had all of those 22 hours back. She felt better. She wasn't stressed anymore. She wasn't anxious and worked up all the time. She now did what she was actually really good at, and her business grew like that. Everything scaled because the systems and the details were covered. And now she started noticing all of the other inefficiencies that were happening in her business, and the mishires and the wrong systems and this, that, and the other, that she never noticed because her mind was so sporadic and all over the place. And this is what happened to me in year one of me running my own business. I experienced the exact same thing. I was doing everything. And you're never going to feel comfortable doing this, delegating, but I started doing it and my business went, more than doubled in revenue that following year and then doubled the next year as well. It did incredible. And it was because I focused on the details and I changed my way of thinking. The details matter. If you're going to send a resume, let's think about this. And you got 500 or 1,000 people that are sending resumes. What's going to make yours look completely different than the rest? What is the one thing that you can do that can completely change everything? Life is an inside game. If you don't ask yourself these questions, you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. One of my best friends, she moved to New York for work. She took this job. And some of you guys, if you've listened to my podcast, you know that I'm born and raised in Texas, trained to be a Southern gentleman. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Open the car doors, the whole thing. So when you go to New York, it's a culture shock. She moved out there, big risk, young, you're living out on your own. That's a big jump, right? And you're in corporate America in New York. And she would just say, man, they were tough. These people were rude. They were mad because she was younger than them and was making almost as much as them. So there was a lot of inner workings in politics. And I kid you not, at the beginning of this year, she was like, Grant, I don't even know if I can do this. This is crazy, this, that, and the other. And I told her kind of what I'm telling you guys. This is like, don't ever underestimate what it takes to be successful. And I was like, you're not going to win the respect of these people with your words. But if you kick their ass and you become the #1 sales rep and you become better than you ever imagined, out-prepare them, outwork them, do things that they never think about. Once you kick their ass and become the #1 sales rep, trust me, they'll have no other choice but to respect you. And she was more than intelligent. Maybe she just needed some tough love. And I get a call like last week. She closed her entire quota for the entire year in 1 month. And she did so much revenue that she outsold her entire team so much that now the team gets a team bonus that is supposed to happen because 6 people did good, and it's only June. Think about that. She was so good, she kicked everyone's ass, and everyone was stunned. They were stunned. And what happened is she just woke up and was like, I got to do more. I got to be tougher. I got to get better. And she did the details. She worked her tail off, and she ended up closing the biggest deal in the company's history, and really her 2nd year of sales for this major company. And that's what it takes. And what I found is I always joke that you could throw me in a Sahara Desert and I'd come out driving a Ferrari. And I really believe that because it's not an industry that made me successful. I could get in the toilet paper business. I get in the sports business, media business. I get in anything. And if I can understand it and get the right people around me, I know business and I know how to win, because it's a very complex formula. But once you do it once, guys, it transfers to anything. So if your dream is to start this amazing company and you're at you work for someone now, be so good that they have to increase your pay, that they have to beg you to stay, that they're worried they're going to lose you. When you can find ways to be successful where you're at, you can transfer that success to anything, around anyone, and anywhere in the world. But that takes being so detailed, so analytical, so focused, but still big picture, first principles thinking, like I talked about in the last episode, that it creates success. Okay, the last thing I want you guys to do is this is homework. Tom Brady, since he's retired, for some of you guys are international viewers, I think you should probably know who Tom Brady is. He is our Lionel Messi or Michael Jordan for football. And Tom Brady, if you look at go search Tom Brady combine photos, and you're going to be confused that this is the greatest quarterback ever. He was a little chubby. He was slow. He didn't even start for the full year his senior year at Michigan. He beat out a top recruit to do it and took him, to the playoffs, did really well. I think it was the Orange Bowl. Then I want you to look, because he's now getting into broadcasting and entrepreneurship, stuff like that. He just did a podcast or an interview on Fox, and it's breaking down how he prepared for the game and what he would actually know and all the things that he would do before. And, I was telling you that story about the quarterback that I played with that was so prepared and was really incredible. It makes you realize why this guy won 7 Super Bowls. Like, why this guy was this successful. When you hear his mindset, but not only that, when he breaks down the preparation for every single decision he makes, it takes it to such another level that you're like, wow, this is why this guy is successful. So go do that. I want you to watch that. And even if you're not a big American football fan, go watch it. And I guarantee Messi, Ronaldo, any of these entrepreneurs that you know, they make it look simple. They play dumb. But behind the scenes, they are so methodical with every single move that they make. So I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. As always, you guys can check me out on all my social media handles at Grant Mitt. Other than that, I hope to see you guys for episode 91. Thanks, guys.